Yo, what's going on, guys? So got another deck profile for you guys today. Now I've been working on this interesting green build. I don't know what I'd call it. Maybe like a MegaGargomon Turbo or some sort of like green rest control. But the essential idea is you want to turbo out MegaGargomon or Seriesmon, and then play it in tandem with things like Argomon and Terror Cluster up here, and then just gain advantage off that, gain advantage of manipulating your opponent's Digimon and preventing them from attacking. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. I'll explain my choices like always. But yeah, this deck has been very fun. I like a lot of the green support we've gotten in the game so far. Lots of awesome cards, especially with the Tamer and option cards. I'll get to those in a second. But then also with the newer support we've been getting. So I'll get to the newer cards later on. Well, I mean, you'll see Terriermon right here, but the newer Megas later on. So for starters, we got Agumon, 4 of him. Nice basic effect. Plus 1000 gain during your turn, which is pretty awesome. It comes up a decent amount when you're digivolving into things like MegaGargomon, and then you just want like that extra 1000 boost. So it puts them in a nice 12,000, but overall solid card. 0 to evolve, which is nice. And then this is one of the newer cards, Terriermon, which is interesting because we haven't gotten a lot of these like during both players' turns effect, or so-called like a floodgate or continuous effect, where he prevents your opponent from gaining memory except by Tamer cards. So unless your opponent has a Tamer card where like their memory will go back to 3 at the start of the turn, they won't be able to gain memory from things like Venom Myotismon or Leomon or Hammer Spark, which is a very common card used in blue. And you actually see that in the gameplay video I'll post. Is that this card was like very unexpectedly good. And honestly, I was skeptical of just, well, I wanted like just another green rookie, but I was skeptical about how good his effect. I thought it might be better as an inheritable effect. But after testing, I do have to say I quite like it. So 4 of Terriermon, definitely a solid choice. Okay, and then of course what I think is the best green rookie is Palmon, 4 of her. You could honestly play her in a lot of different builds, not even just green, just because her effect is so generic. But yeah, I don't think there's any reason not to play her. You're playing so many green level 4s that you might as well play her. Her one played effect is amazing, and then of course you can just digivolve for 0 cost if you choose not to do that. And then one other rookie, I usually like playing 12 to 14, so I opted to just throw in Wormmon. Mainly just because I was testing him out because he's new. I do like his effect. I do think it would have been way better if it was like a when played effect. It might have been too good in that case, but the fact that it's when destroyed makes it like kind of not favorable to me. But it is really good. So if you were playing some sort of like rookie rush or like aggro green deck, you could definitely play more of Wormmon. But overall, I didn't like him too much. Okay, but his Digivolve form, I will say I do like much more. Stingmon is a fantastic champion, so that's why I'm playing 4 of him. For 1, he's a 1 cost to Digivolve, which is always great. We don't have too many of those cards. And then not only that, but then also if you happen to kill an opponent's Digimon with, something like a MegaGargomon or even an Ultimate, maybe Cherrymon or something, you'll get +1 memory. So memory is always a valuable resource, definitely good to have. So definitely going to play 4 of him. Alright, and then for Togemon, basically in every green bill, I'll always play 4 Palmon, 4 Togemon, just because they're such good generic searchers, and we don't have a lot of those in this game. So, one Digivolved effect is amazing. You're playing tons of level 5 or higher in this deck, so definitely live most of the time. And then if you opt not to do that, only a 2 cost to Digivolve, so great card overall. And then for blockers, I'm only playing, well, for champion blockers at least, I'm only playing 2 Woodmon. I'm also playing 2 Cherrymon, so the total number is 4, which is pretty standard. I find myself a lot of times not playing too many blockers, just because sometimes I like making more offensive plays, or in this deck, you don't really need them as much because you have things like MegaGargomon, but you could definitely play more of Woodmon. He's solid overall. I do think Cherrymon's better, just because he's a 2 cost to Digivolve, and he's an ultimate, which is amazing. But yeah, so those are the blockers, or at least the champion blocker. And then now we got Flymon, who is an interesting card because he's one of the only monsters in the game with a security effect, and the only green one to my knowledge. He was pretty good. Basically, if your opponent security checks him, you can play him with no cost, which is great. I don't know if I would play more than 2 of him in this specific build, but you could definitely mess around with that. Like overall, pretty solid card, interesting mechanic. Alright, so then for Argomon, which might not seem too good, especially because I'm not playing the Mega Argomon. But for one, he's a 0 cost, essentially. If you have a Digimon you can rest on your field, he's a 0 cost to Digivolve, which is always good. And then he is also very good with Seriesmon, which I'll get to in a second, but that's the main reason I'm playing them. I wanted to play as many download Digimon as possible without making this like a completely Argomon focused deck. But yeah, and then the rest of the ultimates, we got Cherrymon over here, already went over that, just solid blocker. And then Jagamon, which is great, fantastic, especially because I'm playing 9 green megas. And then he's already 7,000, so if you miss that, it's not like the end of the world. Oftentimes he will end up surviving a security check, but sometimes you can just get, some of these megas are pretty high cost, right? They're 4 or 5 cost, so you can get that summoned for free, which is great. Okay, so that's as far as the ultimates go. And then as far as the megas, of course, we got the star of the show, MegaGargomon. I really, really like this card because it's essentially playing Puppetmon, except you don't have to pay a 10 for him. And then he also has security attack +1 if your opponent has a rested Digimon, which if you resolve the first effect, you will almost always run into that situation. So overall, great defensive and offensive card. My only complaint would be that he's a 4 cost, but I guess that kind of comes with a card that's so powerful. But yeah, MegaGargomon is great. And then this one was interesting. I'm still messing around with the ratios, but I do like Seriesmon, so I'm playing 4 of him. For one, it's the only other card aside from Argomon we've seen that has had download -3. So if you do have a Digimon you can rest, you can summon him for a 2 cost, which is great. Especially because he's 12,000, right? He's great. But then his other effect, which is very interesting, is that once per turn you can download by resting your opponent's Digimon. So if for some reason, I have Seriesmon on the field, and then let's say I have like an Argomon in my hand, I could rest my opponent's Digimon and then summon Argomon for -3 memory, right? So he'd be a 0 cost. Or if I had another Seriesmon effect, he just pays for himself, essentially. So that effect I thought was very interesting because it lets you manipulate your opponent's Digimon. It rests them without playing like an option card. And then, you could go ahead attack with a Seriesmon or something like a MegaGargomon. So very interesting. I didn't get to mess around with it as much as I wanted to. Because sometimes it is situational where like you do need, like if you want to get the most out of its effect, you do need Seriesmon on the field, and then you need like a champion or higher like on your field as well to like summon the Argomon or summon another version of him. But yeah, overall a very interesting mechanic, so I did like it. So definitely a good card right there. And then my last like spicy tech was like Rust Tyrannomon, just because I wanted another Mega. But then also because he has an effect where if he kills something in battle, you can rest another Digimon, one of your opponent's Digimon, which is great. I'm not actually playing any green Tamers, so I don't really get the first effect, excuse me. Well, actually, no, I am playing one green Tamer. But if you wanted to, you could definitely like make a Rust Tyrannomon focus build, so you could just attack and rest your opponent's Digimon, and then if you're playing something like Taiga, the Tamer card, you could unrest him, attack again. So overall, just a good Mega. You could opt to play like Hercules, Kabuterimon, or maybe Grand Kuwagamon if you wanted, but I just wanted something else that like wasn't these dudes. Alright, and then as far as the rest of the cards go, I guess let's get to our Digitamas right here. So 3 Tanemon and 2 Argomon. I really like Argomon, so I might end up playing 3 and 2 instead of like the other way around. Just because, when you summon Seriesmon and MegaGargomon, a lot of times they are going to be rested, so if they survive that turn, you're going to almost always get that +1 memory. The reason why Tanemon is so good is because you have very low cost cards, like Argomon, and like Stingmon, things like that, where you can almost always Digivolve during that turn, and then you'll almost always get that 1,000 boost. So if you pair this with something like Agumon, you might be looking at like a 13,000 MegaGargomon, or something along those lines. So overall, I think these two are probably the best Digi-Eggs we have right now. But yeah, you could definitely mess around with that ratio if you wanted to. Alright, and then the last cards we got here, now I am playing. Okay, so it might look weird that I'm playing 3 blue Tamers in a green focused deck, but to my knowledge, and feel free to correct me on this if I'm not correct. But to my knowledge, in Digimon, when you're resolving card effects, you're trying to resolve as much as possible. So the fact that Davis says, reveal the top 3 and add a blue and green, if you don't reveal a blue, but you do reveal a green, you can still add the green. So Davis has been just one of like the best generic searchers we have in this game. At least as far as for like blue and green decks go, right? I mean, blue already had things like Rina Shinomiya, and other decks have had their searching cards, but the Davis is just a fantastic card. And then not only that, I'm also playing Izzy, and Izzy doesn't have the if your memory's 2 or less, give yourself 3 memory effect. So the fact that Davis does have that is nice. I only wanted to play 4 Tamers, so that's why I'm playing 3 and 1. I was messing around with 2 and 2, but I just like seeing Davis more often. And sometimes when you don't have a level 5 or higher, Izzy's kind of dead. So I only played 1 of him. It worked out okay for me. But if you wanted to like get rid of maybe like a Wormmon or like a Rust Tyrannomon and throw in a couple extra Tamers, you could also opt to play Mimi. I just didn't want to play like 3 different types of Tamers. But yeah, I do think Davis is like a very good card, like overall fantastic. Um, and then yeah, Izzy is self-explanatory. He's just been good. He's just been good in green decks. So yep, I think you gotta either play him or Mimi, and I think Davis is gonna see a lot more play going forward. And then now the only option card I'm playing is Terror Cluster. This card has become a lot better because you have things like MegaGargomon that can like rest your opponent's Digimon just like on summon. So the fact that Terror Cluster is now much more viable, it's not as situational, makes me want to play more. I was still only playing 2 and it worked out fine, especially because you do have like other ways to get rid of Digimon in this deck. But yeah, Terror Cluster just a good removal card. And yeah, so that's going to do it for the deck profile. Let me know what you guys think. You can test out the deck to your heart's content, mess around with the ratios, whatever. If I messed up anything on the card explanations or got any rulings wrong, please let me know. I do appreciate you guys who are out there correcting me in the comments. But yeah, so that's going to do it for this video. Thank you for watching and look forward to more Digimon content.